It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change your attitude, change your life. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life brings you interviews with some of the most inspirational and influential people in the world. It's our goal to educate and empower you so you can live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. We have another great show for you today. Debilitating brain disorders are on the rise, from children diagnosed with autism and ADHD to adults developing dementia at younger ages than ever before. New research is revealing that there is a relationship between intestinal health and the health of your brain. Today's guest, Dr. David Perlmutter, believes that by nurturing your gut, you can alter your brain's destiny for the better. Dr. Perlmutter is a board-certified neurologist and fellow of the American College of Nutrition. He is the author of several books, including Brain Maker and Grain Brain, The Surprising Truth About Wheat, Carbs, and Sugar, Your Brain's Silent Killers. He's lent his medical expertise to national print, online, and broadcast news programs, and has appeared in journals including the Journal of Neurosurgery and Archives of Neurology. Welcome, Dr. Perlmutter. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, Joan, thank you for having me. Delighted to be here.
Doctor, we've been hearing so much lately about the connection between the gut and the brain. What is the research telling us? What is this gut-brain connection?
You know, the thing is, it's been there all along, and we're just starting to uncover this incredibly beautiful dance that happens between things going on within the gut and relationship to the brain, and in fact, vice versa, that things going on in the brain have a dramatic effect on the gut as well. And, you know, we've lived in a world in Western medicine of what we call reductionism, where the gut is in Detroit and the brain lives somewhere in Connecticut, and there was never thought to be any relationship or communication. And clearly that just isn't right, and it really runs against the grain in terms of how people have conceptualized the human body since the beginning of time. So we understand that food is obviously very relevant in terms of the brain health and functionality and resistance to disease, but it's beyond looking at protein, carbohydrates, and fat and micronutrients. We have to begin looking at the very foods we eat in terms of how they affect our gut bacteria, because it turns out that the metabolites, the products that are made by the bacteria living in our intestines, have a huge role to play in terms of changing how the brain works moment to moment. So, you know, for me as a neurologist, here I am 35 years practicing medicine, to suddenly see this data become available and this research become available, it opens up a brand new chapter, a new playing field for us in terms of great information that we can leverage to develop new ways of protecting the brain and even treating existing illness.
So, Doctor, you just mentioned that food choices impact what grows in the gut. What types of food are we talking about?
Well, basically, you know, when we compare the dietary approaches of people living in very rural environments versus those of us who live in a cosmopolitan environment, the array of foods that we consume are vastly different. Generally, in our modern Western diet, we don't have very much in the way of fermented foods, of foods that are rich in a type of fiber called prebiotic fiber. We have far too much carbohydrate and way too much sugar. And beyond that, we recognize now that even such commonly consumed issues as artificial sweeteners have a dramatic role to play in terms of changing the gut bacteria, which then leads to issues related to compromise of our health. So, you know, the bottom line is we've got to eat more fiber, less carbohydrate, less sugar, more healthful fat, and pretty much I think the amount of protein that we're consuming is pretty much across the board about what is right. The notion of healthy whole grain foods, for example, I think has been put upon us by individuals who had it in their interest for us to be consuming lots of these whole grains and bumping up our carbohydrates. If you follow, for example, the food pyramid that's been suggested to us for the past 20 years, that's a diet, the foundation of which is pasta and bread and grains both refined and unrefined. And it's a diet that provides to us as humans huge amounts of carbohydrates. And at the very top of the food pyramid, we found oil or fat.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little tiny bottle by itself, so lonesome at the top of that food pyramid, of oil. And now we see with the release of the U.S. government guideline food recommendations just last year that suddenly we realize it's the carbs that are front and center in terms of giving us illnesses, of paving the way to our most dreaded chronic degenerative conditions like coronary artery disease and Alzheimer's and cancer and diabetes.
So, doctor, if we have an unhealthy gut, what happens to the brain? What do we experience?
Well, the bottom line is that the cornerstone of all degenerative conditions of the brain, including Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, and even things like autism and ADHD, is a mechanism called inflammation. And we're all familiar with inflammation. You get a mosquito bite and it turns red and swells and is painful. It's the exact same mechanism, but we understand that chronic inflammation is mediated by what goes on in the gut, that the leakiness of the gut, the permeability of the gut lining, is really fundamental to determining the set point, either high or low, of inflammation in the body. And it turns out that the bacteria within the gut are the ones who are in charge of regulating whether that gut lining is permeable or not. So that's this connection then that we never really fully understood in the past. 90% of the scientific information about the human microbiome, these bacteria and other organisms in the gut, 90% of this information has only been published in the past 5 years. So this is a very, very new area of research, but fortunately for those of us who are involved in brain studies and brain science like myself, we finally have a door that is opening that's going to allow us so many new opportunities. There is no treatment for Alzheimer's, none whatsoever. In terms of Parkinson's, we only have treatments today for the symptoms, not for the underlying disease. So when we're finally seeing that this is a brand new horizon in terms of the actual cause of the disease, it's a very, very empowering time for all of us.
Doctor, for someone who might be concerned as to whether or not he or she has a leaky gut or inflammation within the body, what does that person need to do to find out? Is there a test? Do they need to go to the doctor? Is charting what they're eating and watching how they feel enough?
Well, it's not enough. And I'd say this is a bit of a bold statement, but I think most people now who are consuming the foods that we eat here in America or are living in any of the Western cultures likely have a fairly significant degree of leakiness of the gut. And at the beginning of BrainMaker, I actually list a series of questions that would help to define whether a person is at risk for leakiness of the gut or not. And so there's a variety of things people can really just ask themselves as in terms of what's going on in their lives to determine, are they at risk. For example, did your mother take antibiotics when she was pregnant with you? Were you born by cesarean section? Were you breastfed for less than 1 month? Did you get ear tubes placed in your ears when you were a child? Did you have your tonsils removed? Did you ever take steroids for more than a week, ever in your life? Do you take antibiotics at least once every 2 to 3 years? Are you gluten sensitive, or do you have other food allergies? Do you have type 2 diabetes? Are you more than 20 pounds overweight? Do you have irritable bowel syndrome? Do you require a laxative at least once a month? Do you have depression? So these are the part of what we call the gut checklist that is found at the very beginning of BrainMaker, and really based upon your responses to these questions, you'll have a sense as to whether or not you do, in fact, have issues related to permeability or leakiness of the gut, and therefore chronic inflammation, which is the cornerstone of every chronic degenerative disease that you don't want to get, including diabetes, cancer, Alzheimer's, coronary artery disease, and even the autoimmune conditions as well.
Doctor, in addition to the foods that you mentioned, what are a few other strategies for a healthy brain?
That's really an excellent question because I think perhaps my answers may be a bit surprising, but I would say that number one on the list is aerobic exercise. It turns out that when we exercise specifically aerobically, and I think yoga and stretching and weightlifting are fantastic, but I'm talking about getting your heart rate up for a 20-minute period of time. It actually sends a signal to your DNA. It changes DNA expression that allows your body to produce a chemical called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And that turns out to be growth hormone for the brain, allowing your brain cells to be protected and actually stimulating the growth of new brain cells, specifically in the brain's memory center called the hippocampus. So job one is to aerobically exercise 6 days a week for a minimum of 20 minutes. And people are always asking me in lectures and in interviews, Doctor, what is the most important supplement for brain health? And I always surprise them by saying it's exercise. That's what you've got to supplement your life with is physical aerobic exercise. Now, beyond that, reducing sugar dramatically is really, really fundamental. Sugar is basically toxic to the brain. Any subtle elevation of your blood sugar is severely detrimental to brain health and function. Wonderful study appeared in the New England Journal of Medicine in September of 2013 that looked at a group of several thousand individuals who did not have dementia, followed them for close to 7 years, and the only test that they did at the beginning of the study was they measured their fasting blood sugars. And what they found was that individuals who had even subtle elevations of blood sugar, like 105, which most doctors will tell you is nothing to worry about because it's not diabetes yet, but even these subtle elevations of blood sugar were associated with a significant increased risk of becoming demented during the time period of the study. So we know that even mild elevations of blood sugar are a powerful risk factor for dementia. And we also know that diets that are higher in sugar, as you might expect, are correlated with higher blood sugar. It doesn't take a neuroscientist to tell you that. So it really is a powerful argument in favor of changing your diet and welcoming healthy fat back to the table.
I have been speaking with Dr. David Perlmutter. If you would like to learn more about this topic or Dr. Perlmutter's work, you can visit his website, drperlmutter.com. That's drperlmutter.com. Doctor, thank you so much for being here with us today and for providing wonderful strategies for a healthy brain.
Joan, my pleasure, and delighted to be here with you today.
We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Joan Herman, host of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Did you know that Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life has a free monthly digital magazine that can be read online or emailed to your inbox? Every month, nationally recognized leaders in their field provide information to educate, inspire, and motivate you. We believe in a holistic approach to life, incorporating mind, body, and spirit. Check out a copy of Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life 24/7. Visit cyacyl.com and be sure to tell your friends. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Take what you've learned, apply it, and live your best life now. Remember that the information provided are the opinions of our guests and should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, visit our website, cyacyl.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on the site, listen to past shows on demand, read the digital magazine, and be sure to follow the show on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.